some reason I want to do this weird thing where like I have a drastically different appearance every time. The last one I was in a beanie, and it was kind of a good look, I'm not gonna lie. But then I'm like, Sheldon's coming, and I think it was my
That's like my thing.
I can't even take myself serious. How the fuck are you supposed to?
Yeah, I don't know. I've talked to worse, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Rock bands and Lipton tea. Let's go.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. I seriously don't like wearing sunglasses inside, so this is a struggle.
Yeah, I have a buddy who used to do it pretty consistently, and it's such a bizarre thing to me that you would like actively choose to do that.
It doesn't bother you that you can't see my eyes?
Not really.
Because I will say that's like one thing. If I'm talking to somebody and I can't see their, like, if they're wearing sunglasses like this, then I'm like, I don't know where to look right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. So whenever I'm talking to
I
somebody,
mean, like a little bit.
I feel like an asshole
Kinda.
because I'm like, he can't see my eyes, so you should take your fucking glasses off,
Yeah,
dickhead.
it's kind of like a dickhead move.
It kind of is, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not gonna do that. It's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well.
It's all right. It's either that or like my. Have you ever seen those giant? It's almost like a sombrero, but I have like one of those sun hats that you wear at the lake.
Yeah.
Big ass straw hat. I was gonna wear one of those.
You should get one of the sombreros. You could put hot sauce in the top.
Oh, I'm so down.
And
Listen,
then
man.
like chips along the side. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of these days we'll do a nacho episode. We'll cover the table in fucking foil. We'll have nacho. This has gone too far.
Yeah.
I had something. I don't remember if it was like some kind of a video or something on my phone, but it was heavily related to ADHD, and I wanted to bring it up to see what your thoughts on it were. And obviously, that's super helpful considering I can't fucking remember now. It's great.
Well, if you remember during.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to ask you, and I guess I'll just dive right into it. I say that every episode, I'm just going to dive right into it. I'm just going to get right into it.
Hey, it's okay.
Like, can you ease
What
into...
What else do you say? No,
Yeah.
easing is like, that's like boring.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
boring. We're good at taking left turns around here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did this last week, and I've talked about it, I think I'm going to bring it up more, but I posted a bunch of stuff about depression, reels and stuff of that nature, and I raised a lot of controversial stuff.
What?
Yeah, and it was kind of my goal, not to be controversial, but my goal is to get different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm even more curious because of how many feathers I ruffled, and I'm curious. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna tell you the base statement of what the reel said, and I want to get your take on it and go from there.
Okay. First, I have to let everybody know who's watching this. So, I'm currently, like, kind of sick, and I've been taking this medication that makes me irritable. So, if I seem extra harsh or straightforward, or you know, then that's why. So,
well,
I've been real touchy lately.
I'll tell you honestly, kind of where your reaction stands in regard to the majority of what I've gotten, because it's super interesting. But the basis of it was that depression is a luxury, and I'm gonna let you take off with that.
Well, I sort of agree. Right, because like I view the same thing about pretty much anybody who has any sort of mental restraint or, you know, quote unquote disability or just like neurodivergence in general. I feel like, you know, ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, like those aren't things that everybody has, right? So in a way, you know, if you do have one of those, like if you do have ADHD or you do have depression, and you're in this select group, I mean, I know it's becoming more and more common these days for people to develop those, but you're in a select group of people, and you have to live your life differently than other people because you have this thing that is with you all the time. You can't really do much about it. I mean, you could help like cope with it in ways, but you can't just like send it off, right? So I think in a way that like I agree with that it is a luxury. Now, I think that if you say that to a lot of people, their first response is going to be like, how is this luxurious because it's horrible?
Boy,
Right.
you took that in a direction I did not see coming, and I was hoping you were going to bring that to the table, and you fucking brought it.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, just because like I don't know the fucking definition of luxurious, but just because it's not like some great thing that you show off, this thing of like high value, this pricey, you know, piece of art or something, or like this, you know, like a luxury car, or like a luxury piece of art or something, that doesn't make the value of it any less valuable. I mean, depression's sort of a strange one because, so for instance, like if you have like autism or you have ADHD, depending on the level and severity of where you are on the spectrum, it's chaotic and horrible, and it's also a superpower. And if you learn to adjust your lifestyle while having one of these, and you learn to, you know, use your productive time productively, and you use your, you know, like chaotic stuff or whatever to, you know, multitask or to clean or to like, you know, however you deal with it.
Right.
There's like these two extremes to it. On one, like people say, you know, having ADHD is terrible, and I agree that sometimes it can be fucking awful, but there's also times where it's like super beneficial, and it's like, you know, if I didn't have it, I would be much less productive in some senses. I'd be much less creative. I'd be much less me. I mean, it's part of my personality. Like that's me. And so if I didn't have it, I'd be completely different. But with something like depression, there really isn't much of a positive to it, right? It's sort of like you feel this thing, and depression is awful. And when you are depressed, you feel terrible. And it's really hard to like, you know, you're depressed, and then you're like, how do I turn this into a good thing? You know, how do I use my depression for good or to benefit my life? And there really isn't a lot of ways that you could do that, you know?
So I would like to just share kind of what the idea of that reel was. And then I'm going to share kind of my viewpoint on it, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The idea behind that reel that I shared that ruffled so many goddamn feathers was depression is a luxury, in the sense that, you know, being upset about things that happen is one thing, and being debilitated by things that you're upset about, and, you know, blah blah blah, the list goes on, is one thing. But when it comes down to being so debilitating that you cannot function, you know, that's the luxury of it. Is not everybody has that luxury.
Right.
If it depends on you surviving another couple of days in this world, then you don't get that luxury.
Right.
It's a pretty odd way to view depression, but I found it interesting.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of people are kind of most. I mean, I haven't seen the like debates and stuff. I haven't seen the comments, but I assume that most people are viewing that on a surface level, right? And they automatically associate like the term luxury with this is a good thing. This is something that people want. This is something that's desired. And of course you're going to be like, well, who wants to be sad as fuck? And it's not about that. It's not about whether it's a good or a bad feeling.
Yeah, it's not good and bad. That's not what we're looking at.
In any aspect, it's bad. It's terrible. It's not a great thing to have. But the fact that not everybody in the world can feel sadness that deeply is a luxury. Now, is it a good thing? Do you want it? Is it sought after? Of course not. But in a way, I mean, it's unique.
The one comment that was repeated pretty often throughout the comments that I kind of the one comment that stuck with me the most, aside from all the other drawn out, rants that were there, a lot of people, all they did was post first world problems.
Dude, there's so many fucking goddamn stupid people in the world. Like it's so infuriating, like being alive at this current moment in the world, mostly in America or the United States, or but it's such a stupid ass fucking time in the world, and there's so many stupid fucking people, and so like I'm not surprised, So
like, you maybe with more context, you'd be apt to potentially agree with that. But where is your feeling lie with that comment? Because I got different degrees of it. So first world problems, like maybe at the core, what I could see is, oh, I'm fucking sad, so I can't go to work. First world problem.
If you first, I'm gonna say, if you don't suffer from depression, shut the fuck up, because like you clearly don't know what it's like, right?
I would agree with that.
It's not just a thing. People misuse these mental issues so often. They're just like, I have ADHD, I have depression, I'm depressed, I'm anxious.
This is definitely a third part of this that I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad you fucking did.
And it's like most of the time when you're like, I'm depressed. No, you're fucking not. Feeling sad is not being depressed.
Right.
And most people are just like, wow, I'm really sad today. And it's like, no, you're fucking not. Like, you're not depressed. You could be like, yeah, bummed out, crying, you whatever. Mm-hmm. But you're not fucking depressed. And maybe you are depressed, right? But so many people just throw around the term like it's just being sad equals depression.
Especially these days.
Yeah. And it's fucking crazy. People are like, oh, I can't sit still. Like, I have ADHD. It's like, maybe, but do you know? Well, no, I haven't been diagnosed yet. Then, like, eat shit. Like, you can't just assume that you have these things based on something that you've seen, the videos you've seen, the friends you have, the fucking whatever.
YouTube doesn't diagnose.
Like, no, and it's like, it's not this thing. It can be this thing where like, yeah, your main and only symptom is like you can't sit still, but like there's so many other things that cause that.
Yeah.
And like that's besides the point, but being in a state of depression where you are physically and mentally unable to live your life is not like just like a man, this is all these people complain about being depressed, fucking pussies, just fucking grow a pair and get over it. Like you can't. I mean, you can't just do that. And there's so many people that are like, depression's not real, or like, I don't believe in depression. And it's like, well, you're fucking stupid. Like, who gives a shit if you believe in it or not? It's a real thing that exists, that happens inside of your brain.
Right.
Like, and unless you feel that and you have it and you've experienced it, you can't just say like get over it, like fucking crybaby or whatever. Like, it's not just it's not an easy thing. I'll admit some people exaggerate it to the point where they're like attention seeking, or they're just really sad, but they want to tell all their friends that they're depressed because they want people to feel empathy for them and sympathy for them.
Right.
And so those people are shitty people, and they're excluded from the conversation, right? But when you're talking about depression as an actual real thing, it's not just something that you could say, oh, all these people are crying about depression. But if you want to look at it as like all of those people that just are feeling sad today and they're like, I'm depressed, well then, yeah, I agree. Stop being stupid. Like,
That's I love it. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd bring to the table. The other portion of that I wanted to just dabble a little bit on is my view. And it's really just, I'm not going to get into horrific details at this point in time, but I think that my view of depression and what it really truly can be is what I would relate to is like, so you've heard like the definition of hell is everybody has their own hell, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own torture. Everybody has their own hell.
Demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's probably something along those lines, and it's not something that we should be able to prescribe off or put on paper. It's everybody's gonna have their own version of depression, and it's gonna vary. It is.
Right.
What you're saying is completely different, but what you're talking about is people self-subscribing to this fucking definition of being overly sad.
Right.
And using it for better anyway. But I would say that if I were to give depression a face, then it would probably be my own version of hell, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, personally, I think there are things that are worse than depression, like anxiety.
Anxiety's a motherfucker.
If you have anxiety and you have an anxiety attack, it makes being depressed look easy, right? Or feel easy, right? Because that's fucking horrendous.
That's gonna raise some comments,
right? Having ADHD and being off of medication and being forced to be in a place or a situation or doing something that you do not want to be doing with every fiber of your being, but you're forced to be there and sit through it, and just what happens inside of your brain, to me, that's a worse feeling than being depressed. Because it consumes my entire being, and it's like it's the worst. I feel it. It feels like I'm vibrating on the inside throughout my entire body. It feels like I have this severe pressure in my veins, like I have this constant adrenaline pulsing through me, but I can't do anything about it. And the stuff that's happening inside of my head is just like this chaotic war zone and flashing pictures and just like the most brutal thing you can imagine is just all happening, flickering, and just like speeding by in my head, and you just can't control it. Like nothing you can do can just take it away. And until you're like, and then you're like shaking and you're like restless as fuck, and you're like, I gotta get the fuck out of here right now, or I'm gonna freak out. Like I can't do this. And so, and of course that varies with your level of ADHD. I mean, some people don't have it so severely, and some people have it worse, but for me it's fucking awful, right? So
you talk about being in a social situation that you don't want to be a part of, that you're quote unquote being forced into. To dude, I feel like I don't think that I'm anywhere close to the same diagnosis that you would explain, but there's sometimes where I have this just like overwhelming. Every part of me wants to just be disconnected, so I'm not a part of whatever it is that I'm dealing with, and I'm quiet, I'm shut off, and not fucking relevant.
What's up, man?
Fucking Joey.
Joey just came in.
Joey looks fucking good.
Is it the one on the left?
What?
Your neighbor that you have a problem with, or is it the one on the right?
I don't have a problem.
Okay.
Why?
You did. Because I parked on your left side.
Ah, fuck
Your
them.
neighbor's house.
They'll be all right.
What's up, dude?
What's up, buddy?
Don't let me bug you.
You look dapper.
He always looks dapper. Look at that hair.
I know, I'm jealous, dude.
He's beautiful.
Fucking Joey. No, but it's funny how different it is. And I don't really know what the diagnosis of it would be, but dude, if I don't want to be a part of it, I can't even fake it.
Right.
Like, I cannot, for anything inside of me, fake being a part of something I don't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the fuck that means or what it...
Well, it's mainly probably just a form of social anxiety when it comes to being in a place with people or around people or in a social setting,
Yeah.
right? It's social anxiety, but what is causing that? Like, what is the starting point of that is something that, it could be any number of things.
Yeah, it's...
Right.
Sometimes that shit just happens just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Without a starting point, and that's what... These are moments I'm like, well, I'm just an asshole, and we're gonna settle with that.
Well, and like I don't think it's this. I don't think it's a crazy like unique feeling, right? Because I feel it quite often where I just like I'm over it. I don't want to be here anymore, or
right.
I don't want to go do that thing, and I feel like it's pretty normal for people to just like not want to do some things sometimes. Depending on the situation, but
it's more concerning to me that I can't fake it.
Yeah,
which is strange.
Well, I can't really fake anything,
but I would love to just be able to just be bubbly on command,
or
sometimes.
I guess I should say that I don't fake anything. I actively choose to not be myself, right? Okay. Because I don't think there's a fucking point to it. I mean, we've talked about this before, about how I believe in being you 120% of the time, right? And because if you're not, then like you're lying to yourself and everyone else around you, right? And if you're feeling something, there's a reason for it. It's coming from somewhere, so express it, right? Do the thing, because it doesn't just pop up for no reason. You can't just push it aside, or you can, but like, why? If you're feeling a certain type of way, like, why do you want to be fake? Just be real. It's like the best way to go about doing things, just like telling the truth. I live by love everyone and tell the truth all the time, right? That's like a big part of me. And I feel like if you lie to anybody, it just doesn't do you any good. Right.
Very true.
And if you're standoffish and if you're an asshole and you don't show people love who there's no reason to not show them love, then like, why? Is
that fucking Chelada?
It's Juaritos.
Oh,
hard alcohol, or it's a hard Juaritos.
Oh fuck. No. Weirdly enough, I was actually going to say, I think him and I have had this conversation too. We've talked about the different Joeys that people see a social Joey, and he's always the same. For one time, of which I wish I had that card. I wish I could pull out a social me and just have everybody see that, but I can't. That's a fucking talent.
Well, for some people, it's kind of second nature. Like my wife, she can just like flip the switch, and she's so good at pretending or like being fake happy that, you know, you would never be able to tell. And it used to be a really big issue between us because, like, to me, I would feel like everything is all right, you know, like all the time, like everything is good. And then, you know, it comes up a couple months later that like she's been going through some really tough shit and like I had no idea, but it's been affecting her in all these different ways. And so then we're having a conversation about like what is going on. And then it's like, oh, well, for the last month or so, this thing has been bothering me. And, you know, like, you know, someone died or like things are shitty at work or like whatever. And like I would never be able to tell. Because if you don't communicate, you don't talk about it, and you just have this facade like you're fine and this like persona, then no one would ever know. And that's my issue with it, is that you're fake. It's a fake thing. It's not real. You're lying to yourself and other people.
Right.
And you know, it's not always like, you don't have to associate like lying and being fake with automatically something like evil or deceitful or something like that. But it's just, why not express it? Why not just, you know, be honest? Why not just be yourself?
It took me a lot of years to train myself to do what you're expressing. And I don't know why. I don't know why I grew up. Actually, I probably could now that I say it. As I going into my adulthood, I wanted to be more accepted and more of the popular crowd. You know, I wanted so much to be more desired than I was growing up in school and shit like that, that I just started becoming what everybody wanted to see, rather what was good for me.
Well, and that's such a stressful and a stressful situation, and something that can lead you to burnout super quickly.
Yeah.
Because picture it. Right, you have like 5 different groups of friends, and they're all vastly different from each other.
100%.
But every time you hang out with them, you try to fit in, right? You act like they act, right? So you're putting on 6 different versions of yourself. The one where you're by yourself, the one when you're with all these friend groups and their friends and their families and all that stuff. And then even more if you find a partner, right? If you're in a relationship, now you have 7. Right. And it's like one of those things where, you know, you have to build relationships with people honestly.
Yeah.
Because there's only one true version of yourself. And that's the only one that counts.
Right.
Really, is just you. And no matter what situation you're in, that's you. And if you want to attract people and also gravitate towards people who show similar interests in you and who you want to pursue a relationship with, whether it's a friendship or like a, you know, marriage or partnership or whatever, then you have to do it with that true version of yourself, or else like you're going to be living a lie for the rest of your life, or you're going to force yourself to turn into this other person that you're so desperately trying to be, and that's toxic, right?
So 2 things that come to mind when we talk about the resolution of that whole situation is, for one, it's a very quick ending. For one, at the end of the day, none of the people that you've built a relationship based on this fake persona that you've put on, none of those people are real. None of those relationships are real. So at the end of the day, you don't have any of them to lean on.
No, and you're wasting your time.
Right. It's 110% a waste of time. And I've found that out the hard way several times, you know, just trying to be somebody that people wanted to see or be the popular guy, whatever the fucking case is, doesn't matter. All those people are obviously gone for pretty open reasons. 2, you spend so much time not knowing who you truly are that you trying to develop a relationship, a true relationship with people in your life now is going to take twice as long.
Right.
Because you spent so much time dicking around with somebody that doesn't exist.
Well, and you could also develop a dissociative disorder where you no longer even know where to find yourself. Like you're lost and you just disassociate, and then it's like you're just this whole other person.
That one struck a nerve because I feel like I might have dabbled in that.
I mean, most likely.
Yeah.
It's becoming a more common thing because, you know, especially with the last few years and a lot of people spending a lot of time doing things over the internet and virtually rather than in person. So then when they get so used to that now when they go out in person, they're like, what do I do? Like, how do I communicate with people? This is weird. And also, like, it's so easy to say so many things online that you spend all this time saying all of these things, right, and acting a certain way, and then in real life, you know, most people don't say the same things or don't talk the same way, right? And so they're sort of developing it and they don't even know that it's happening. Yeah. It's just a thing that is naturally occurring. But if you can, you should try to just be yourself. And when you find a group of people, another thing is, like, all those people, you don't really want to be friends with them. Like, you don't want, you obviously don't share the interest if you have to force yourself to like them or be like them.
Right.
It's not, you don't naturally like this thing. You don't gravitate towards it. So, like, why is it happening? Why are you doing something you don't want to be doing?
Well, at the core of that just means that you've offered a select group of people or select people, you've offered them something even when it doesn't benefit you,
right,
as well. And that's, you know, that's the only reason that they're there at that point. Well,
and it's also, like, you know, if you're feeling a certain type of way, like, I've hung out with the boys, and I haven't been 100%, like I'm just bummed out, or like I'm just in a shitty mood or something, and I still go to hang out, because part of having that close relationship with people is that they can see it, right? If you're not hiding it, they can see it, and them being close to you and expressing that love and care and empathy and compassion for whatever you're going through, is they try to bring you up, lift you up, and you putting yourself out there when you are depressed or you're feeling anxious, and you going to do something that's a way to relieve that feeling, is by going and hanging out with people that care about you and that you love and that you have fun with and that you have a relationship with. And so if you go and you're just like, well, I'm just going to fake like everything is okay, then you have went there, you faked it, you didn't really have a good time, and you led them to believe that you were having a good time. And then you go home and you're still in a shitty mood. You're still in a shit place. But if you go and then you're just like, yeah, I'm not feeling it today, and then by the end of the night, you're like genuinely happy and you're like gassed up and you're like, you know, feeling better,
right?
And like,
I had a good night.
You solved the problem,
right?
And you're not deceiving your friends with it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer hanging out with somebody that's depressed, for real. I mean, it sucks. You see them and you're just like, I don't really want to hang out with that person right now. But finding people that can accept that and are willing to be like, do you want us to do anything to try to help? Or do you just want, like, to sit back and just, like, do your own thing?
Yeah.
And whatever the thing is, like, whatever their answer is, you do that thing. Well, then, like, that's great, right? Those are good people to surround yourself with.
That conversation offers so many different fucking avenues. I'm not accepting of a lot of them. When somebody openly says, you know, how much, because I'm the type of person that even if you ask me if I need help, I'm probably going to say no.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Regardless of, you know, and I understand what you're saying, because most people would just want for somebody to accept their answer and to just move the fuck on. You know, that is one avenue. Me, myself, though, I'm so stubborn that I would probably just say no and try to force it on that way. It's just, that's a fucking rabbit hole you just opened.
Yeah. well, and it is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when the person talking to you about it is you know that they're in like a worse position than you are.
Right.
And you're like, man, like this is, I would really love to accept this, but from what I've learned is if they're genuinely offering something to you, if they're genuinely offering to help, and it's something that you want, then sure,
right.
However, if they're just doing it for sympathy, or they're just like,
yeah, like you said earlier,
I'm gonna do this thing because I feel like I have to, so I'm gonna ask anyway, or like their wife is like, oh, you should go ask him if he wants that thing, or if he wants help with this, and he's like, oh, fucking really? And then he goes and asks you, and you can just tell that it's not genuine. Then they just like, nah, like I'm good, You don't really want to help me with this thing. You don't really want to do this thing. So, like, why would I make you do that?
Right.
I think I'm cool doing it by myself. But, there's a time and a place for everything. And it's just kind of something that you have to develop. And this is all just, like, me and my experience with it. And just, I've weighed what burns me out and what puts more stress and strain on my life, and just what I don't want to be a part of. Like, I'll admit, if I'm hanging out with somebody, or somebody wants to talk to me and like they're really depressed, I like don't want to, because it just sucks,
That's fair. You're being honest.
And I want to help, but the truth of it is it's really hard for you or for anyone to genuinely help somebody who is feeling depressed, especially if you don't suffer from depression yourself, right? Because not everything works the same for everybody. So you could offer something, right? You could be like, if you need anything, let me know, or like, if you want me to do anything, or blah, blah, blah. But really what they want is they want to brain dump what's going on in their life to you. And that's all they want. They just want you to listen. They just want to get it out of their body, because that's what's debilitating them, is they have no one to talk to. They feel alone. They feel isolated, and they just want to get it out. They want somebody else that exists to coexist with them and share this thing that's happening to them.
Do you think that want for expression could potentially be on a subconscious level?
Yeah. I mean, like, they know what they want.
I mean, if I were somebody who was potentially suffering from that debilitating depression, do I know, like, what I know now is that talking about it and working through it with somebody would probably be the beginning stages of the answer, right? Am I gonna fucking want to? Not even a little bit.
Right. And that is that is depression. I mean,
right.
that's something that goes along with depression, is that you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
You have zero motivation, you have no drive, you have no ambition, you have no desire to do anything, to reach out to people, to talk to people. But for me, when I'm feeling depressed and somebody is like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm in a real shit place. I'm feeling depressed. You asked, and I'm being honest. And so then they're like, what's wrong? And I tell them, and I don't want anything from you. I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Here's what I do when I'm feeling sad. I don't give a fuck. You asked me how I'm feeling, and I told you how I'm feeling, and that's all I want. If you want to know, I'm more than willing to get it out of my body and share that with you. Yeah. But I'm not just gonna like message Joey out of the blue and be like, hey man, I'm depressed and here's why. And then he's like just in the middle of his day having a good time, and he's like, oh shit, that sucks, So even though I know like he would obviously be a good person to talk to, and like, now I can share that with him, but just to forcibly put that on somebody, and then now you've affected their mood, and they're just like, they weren't expecting that to happen, and now you've shifted the rest of their day, right? Mm-hmm. And then you put them in a situation where like they don't know what to do. They're like, should I say something? Should I try to help? Like,
well, you kind of raise a whole other conversation of what some people might call like potential responsibilities of somebody that's actually close to you. because I feel like that's like an unspoken thing, you know. If you're that close to somebody and somebody reaches out to you in that manner, then maybe it is not necessarily responsibility, but you know, it's like I said, it's a whole nother conversation you raise.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway, because I see what you're saying, and I definitely agree that you wouldn't want to be an inconvenience to anybody else and anything else that they may be going through, and you don't want to just stop their fucking day just because you're having a shit moment. However, I've been called out enough times to know that apparently we're supposed to acknowledge the other end of that. Enough people have told me that if that's a fucking problem, then you need to reach out and say something, you know?
Well, I see a lot of people say that because they feel like they have to. They feel like as your family or as your friend, like you're inclined to say, if you need anything, reach out to me because I'll be there for you.
Right.
But don't fucking say that if you don't mean it, right? If somebody is like talking about how they suffer from depression and they're going through this really hard time, and you don't know them or you barely know them, or it's somebody that you really do know, no matter who it is, if you say, if you need anything, reach out to me. Like, I'll be there. I'll respond. I'll listen. Whatever you need from me, I got you. And then they reach out and you just like leave the message on read and just don't say anything, then you're a fucking garbage human. And like, that's a really shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that person genuinely may not have anybody else to talk to you. And so you offering that was like, oh, this is the one person who's going to listen to me if I need something.
Right.
And so if you say that to somebody, you better fucking mean it. And if you don't want to take on that responsibility, then don't tell somebody to do that to you. You know, like, I know that I can reach out to any of my friends, my wife, my family, if I'm feeling bummed out or if like I'm going through something, right? But I choose not to. I'm not going to be feeling depressed and then message 10 different people and be like, I'm sad, because
you definitely, that situation is fucking different, because when I find out, if by chance I do find out that somebody is looking for that kind of attention or seeking that kind of attention to that many different degrees, because that's a real thing. You know, like you said, people use that shit to their leverage and expect this many people to respond only because they want the attention.
Yeah.
You can count me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, and then a lot of people say like, oh, you should have said something. And it's like, why? What could you have done for me? Like, what would your response have been if I told you that I'm going through all this stuff? How can you help me with it? You can't. Like, I could have reached out, but it would have been pointless. I would have just, unless I wanted to tell you and share that with you because I wanted to get it out of my brain and I had nobody else to tell it to, then, like, honestly, what could you have done for me? You know, be like, I'm sorry, things will get better, just give it time. That doesn't fucking help anything. Like, those are obvious things. It's like, yeah, no shit. It doesn't help anything. So if you pour your heart out and your feelings and you share this with somebody and they're just like, I'm sorry to hear that, like, great. Glad I wasted fucking a half an hour typing that out to you for you to give me that like fucking basic ass response.
So I raised the question only because of that response is, if that were to be the case and you were to reach out to somebody that was important to you and you did get a generic response, what would you merit a response that was worth it?
Well, if I, most of the time it would just be like a reminder to them. So you're just reminding them about things that they've that have gotten lost or that they've forgotten because they're feeling this way. Like, no, you are important. Right? These are the people that genuinely really do care about you. You have people out there.
Okay.
I've been through this. Remember, I lost my dad too, or I lost my friend too. I know how you're feeling. You're not alone. These kind of things, like you know, you have friends. You enjoy your job. Like, remember, you like painting, right? These little things, when people are feeling like they're just isolated, nobody likes them. If they reach out to anyone, they're just gonna get rejected and all this stuff. You have to just give them, if they want it, if they're asking you, I would give them just reminders that they are equally as important as every other human that exists.
That's super interesting, because if I'm being honest with you, I don't want to hear any of that shit from anybody.
Right.
What you're talking about is like constructive feedback instead of just the
You're right.
like, oh, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
I can see where that would be extremely helpful. I don't know, me personally, if it's a me problem, then it is, but I just don't want to hear that shit.
Well, and that's what I was talking about earlier.
I would also take it a step further and say that because of who I am, I probably wouldn't reach out to begin with. So it's kind of a fucked up beginning. You know, we're walking down two different paths and two different sources of quote unquote depression.
Well, and see, you most of the time I would say that you are just looking to get it out of your body. Right. That you're looking for somebody to just listen and share that experience with you.
I would say most of the time, yeah.
Which is a normal thing for people that are depressed, because like I said, what are they going to do to help you? Right. Unless you know that they have experienced something similar. Not exactly, because people don't experience things exactly the same way as somebody else, but something similar. Like if you lost a loved one and you're depressed and you reach out to somebody who told you if you need anything, reach out, and you did, and you guys are going through the same thing, they can help you to a degree, right? So if you're like, I'm feeling this way, I need help. Like I'm looking for an answer, then they can give you like, this is what I did. These are what my family, this is what my friends did for me. These are the kinds of things that I did to get out of it. And you know, it may not help the person, but giving ideas, again, giving those reminders of like, you know, you're not alone in this. I promise.
You know what I think would work for me personally? If I ask somebody, like, hey, do you have some time this evening? I would just like to get out of the house. It would be that kind of thing, like just a small escape for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, help me get out of my fucking reality just for a minute.
Well, and I've definitely done that with a lot of our close friend group.
Yeah.
Like I've reached out to Brandon, I've reached out to Devlin, and like if I got broken up with, or I was just, you know, really upset, I'm like, hey man, like are you doing anything right now? Are you busy? Like, can I swing by? Can we like smoke hookah or just chill out? And they're always like, yeah, like sure, go ahead. And then I just go and we just hang out and I tell them what happened, and then we just move past it. You know, we just start talking about something else.
Just a nice escape.
Yeah. And those are the genuine people that you want. This is a full circle. Because if you reach out to one of those assholes that you've been faking a relationship with, and you're like, hey, I really need you right now, and they're like, grow some balls and get the fuck over it,
you're gonna get left on red.
Then, you know, you're shit out of luck. So that's another reason why it's important to find people who like you for your genuine, true self.
I don't even like me. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Do you want to close this out on something positive? Not that.
Sure. I'm an open book, man.
Yeah.
I'm down to talk about whatever.
Dude, your input today has been fucking spot on and everything I'd hoped for. So I was really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to hearing your fucking input on some shit.
Yeah, I wish we had a third mic.
I do too, because this would be a good one. I mean, you guys can talk.
What?
The next one can just be you guys.
Oh shit.
Would you do it?
Yeah, of course I would do it.
Fuck. I might have just got laid off for the night.
Joey's down for whatever.
Fuck, I know. That's why I love him. Well, the constant conversation that we've been having, the trend, so to speak, lately has been a little bit more based on depression and mental health, probably men's mental health. So I think we'll end this one with, just really lean on the people that are the closest to you if you need to. Depression is not the end, and don't let it be the end. And,
Yeah, it's real shitty, and it is disabling, but it's not. It doesn't have to be the end of your life, right? It will pass.
Yeah.
It might not be in an hour. It might not be in a month, but it will pass eventually because you have other emotions floating around in your head, and depression can't take over that severely, and if it does, I would suggest to seek therapy of some sort, like either therapy or medication or something, but only if you genuinely feel like you need it and that it's something that would help you, not just like, this is kind of hard for me to go through, so I'm gonna get medication so I don't have to ever experience this again, because first off, that's not going to happen. Even if you take antidepressants, you're still going to be depressed. But if you feel like you've been depressed for a long time, it's disabling, you've ran out of options, you're like, I need help right now, or this is it, then like, really do something about it. You're not alone. There's somebody in the world that loves you. There's like 8 billion people out there. I'm sure you can find at least one.
Fuck.
Right? It's going to be okay, no matter how much it feels like it's absolutely not going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I agree with you. If this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, then it's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you. So don't give up. And, as always, like, follow, subscribe, for more riveting information. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Nah.
No. Well, we love you.
I love you guys.